My name is Jeff Robinson, Democrat nominee for Muncie Mayor. Thank you all for being here. You know, since March, my team and I have spoken to thousands, literally thousands of residents on their front doorsteps. In those conversations, it's been confirmed what we've long suspected to be one of the biggest issues on the minds of our citizens: the city's crumbling infrastructure. Our roads are literally falling apart. This has been a problem long enough that it's become a painful joke amongst our residents as well as frequent visitors to the city of Muncie. The paving plan we've seen over the last 4 years under the current administration leaves a lot to be desired. To continue under the current administration's paving plan is to simply put a Band-Aid on a broken arm. Quite frankly, it does not and will not get the job done. What the current mayor is claiming his administration to have paved, what he's telling citizens he has paved, is not actually what he's paved. You can see the map here. This is what the current administration has claimed to pave. When you subtract the work that was done by other entities, including Delaware County government, Walmart, who owns Clare Lane in front of their store, they paved that road. The Muncie Sanitary District and Delaware Advancement Corporation, the numbers become much smaller. In fact, 40% less than he's actually claiming. You can see what he's claiming here. You can see the difference in who did what. The Sanitary District, Delaware County, Delaware Advancement Corporation, Walmart. And then once you peel that away, you can see what the current mayor has actually done. In reality, what he's actually done is 30 lane miles of road since 2021. Excuse me, that's 15 miles of road in 3 years, 30 lane miles. That's an average of about 11 lane miles per year. When you take a look at where this paving is taking place, it becomes even more clear that we cannot continue down this path if we want to make a real impact. Most of the roads in Ridenour's haphazard plan are used by a very small percentage of our city's residents. Paving an entire northwest side neighborhood with only 24 homes, a dead-end street with 4 houses, does nothing to address the needs of all of our citizens. If my opponent truly wanted to, quote, take the politics out of paving, as he claims, he would have been focused on the roads everyone in our city uses. The most recent folly in this disorganized infrastructure plan by our current mayor was the unilateral acceptance of an agreement for the city of Muncie to take ownership of Indiana 32 from the state after that project is completed. This means that after that project is completed, the city will take ownership and now be responsible for maintaining and resurfacing 29 additional lane miles of State Road 32 moving forward. It's $10.5 million next year. The paving that will be done next year, $10.5 million. Again, we cannot continue down this path. As a city, it is far past time that we focus on the basics and get our priorities straight. If the foundation of your house is crumbling, you don't spend money putting a pool in the backyard, or in the case of the current administration, a splash pad. Our infrastructure is the foundation of our city, and it's crumbling. And it's time we get serious about fixing it before it is too far gone. Now, big problems require bold solutions, and the job of an elected official is to serve according to the collective will of their constituents. I've listened to citizens, and we have devised a plan to do what needs to be accomplished to take a big step in improving our failing infrastructure. The plan I'm about to show you has been created using input and guidance from experts in their respective fields, the way all decisions should be guided by a mayor. and focuses on the city's major thoroughfares, the roads we all use, the roads our economy depends on, where commerce takes place, the roads every citizen and every visitor to our community uses to navigate throughout our city. We've heard the excuses from the current mayor, We've heard the excuses from the current mayor and mayors of the past as to why more paving isn't getting done. It is true, the cost of paving is substantial. And annual revenues from local road and street and wheel tax provide limited opportunity year after year to make a meaningful impact. However, the definition of the word excuse is a reason or explanation put forward to defend or justify a fault. The fault we have had in the past is a lack of creativity and a lack of forward thinking. It can be done. And under my administration, with our community's most pressing issues being our top priority, we'll take big steps to get it done. The framework of my plan, and you can see behind me the roads that are highlighted that will be paved under my plan. The framework of my plan will be paid for using a $25 million revenue bond, which does not, I repeat, does not require any new taxes or additional taxes. It does not require any additional taxes. The annual bond payment is approximately $1.9 million over 20 years. It'll be paid for using a primary pledge of edit, along with a combination of future local road and street revenue and wheel tax distributions, with TIF funds, tax increment financing funds, used as a backup. Doing this with this funding model will leave a healthy amount annually to address other infrastructure needs as well. And it's a three-step plan, beginning with the roadmap for Paving Muncie plan, as you can see behind me. Of that $25 million, $20 million will be for the improvement of 82 lane miles of primary thoroughfares. 82 lane miles of primary thoroughfares. We'll seek additional allocations from the state of Indiana Community Crossings matching grant funds to further improve road conditions. We'll also leverage professional engineering services along with a full-time grant writer to seek other funds, not just from state government, but from the federal government as well. Our plan will use professional paving firms. And we also want to create a traffic calming program to make our city neighborhoods safer. So important. The second step in our plan will focus on sidewalk improvements and ADA accessibility. Many sidewalks throughout our community just aren't navigable on foot, let alone for our neighbors who are wheelchair users. We have to do better. We have a basic responsibility to ensure people can travel safely throughout the city, no matter their mode of transportation. My plan is aggressive in rectifying the deplorable and embarrassing conditions of our city sidewalks to make our community safer and more pedestrian friendly. The Responsible Accessibility for Muncie Pedestrians Plan, RAMP, is $5 million for sidewalk and ADA accessibility improvements. We'll seek federal matching dollars while leveraging community development block grant funding, which can be used for sidewalks and ADA accessibility as well. This plan will also see the creation of an accessibilities planning and oversight committee to make sure we're getting it done to the benefit of the most people in our community. The third step in our plan, it gets us back to basics, addressing first things first, so that day-to-day maintenance and street services are delivered in a responsive and timely manner. Look, the men and women of the Muncie Street Department work diligently at their jobs, and they have been asked to do work above and beyond their level of training, but also above their level of pay. The street department has roughly 12 employees on their road crew. The current mayor has ordered them to do skilled labor without providing the proper training while drastically underpaying them compared to their counterparts in the private sector. We want to right this wrong by getting those men and women back to doing what they do best and what they signed on for. Our street department focus is very simple. It's proactive maintenance focused on crack sealing, potholes, snow removal, and common maintenance services. Traffic signage and signalization. We'll implement a 72-hour response team for any issues we may have on the streets so that we can address it quickly and efficiently for the citizens of Muncie. Additionally, utility and railroad signage coordination. We've all been stopped by trains in this community many times for a long period of time. When there's construction taking place on those railroad tracks in other areas and there's no signage until you get to the tracks and you have to turn around, we want to fix that. And we want to use the men and women of the street department to do so. Excuse me one second. Now, there are, of course, caveats to the plan. The issuance of any bond is dependent on city council approval. I know our Democrat slate of candidates has been hearing the same things from citizens as I have, because we've all been walking together, knocking on doors. So I know they're hearing the same things that I am. And I know that each of our Democrat city council candidates are laser focused on serving the collective will of their constituents. Now, I certainly don't want to speak for them when it comes to how they might vote on this if they are elected. But I would encourage you to ask them yourself. I would encourage you to ask both Democrat and Republican candidates. I want to remind you that recently the mayor, the current administration, has started to lay the framework to add an $18 million bond for 2 fire stations. So I would ask you, would you rather take out an $18 million bond to build 2 fire stations or $25 million to pave 82 lane miles of major thoroughfares in our city? Again, we have to get our priorities straight. We have to. Our citizens deserve elected representatives who make decisions for the betterment of our entire community, not just campaign supporters in an effort to get themselves reelected. We have to focus on the basics. Additionally, another caveat, I am not privy to current community crossings grant applications by the current administration or what roads they may be targeting. It's really no matter. Any CCMG money that the city might receive that would be one of the roads in my plan, we'll just redirect those dollars to another road because we have plenty of roads to take care of. Now, my opponent and certain outspoken supporters of his will inevitably attempt to punch holes in this bold plan. That's what naysayers and individuals who lack experience do. What they'll actually be doing is contesting the opinions of thousands of citizens and businesses who call Muncie home and help drive our local economy. They'll say we can't afford it. They'll say debt is bad. Well, as I mentioned, the Ridenour administration is seeking to put forward a plan to take out $18 million to build 2 fire stations. My plan calls for 25. The current administration has also, every year, found money to hand out to software companies, purchasing downtown buildings, overpaying for other downtown properties, supplementing private developments. We can afford this. We can afford this plan if we get our priorities straight. They'll say we should wait for federal and state dollars to help us. We just can't wait. We just simply cannot wait. We'll have been waiting up to 6 years for funds on McGalliard and Tillotson by the time it gets paved. We learned about this in 2020. They are not on the schedule for next year. They're not on the schedule for next year. So you're looking at 2025 or 2026. That's 5 or 6 years that we'll have been waiting for the state or the federal government. I am not willing to wait any longer. Also, taking the initiative and investing in our roads will actually help us to secure additional grant funding and matching funds. Working in nonprofits nearly my entire career, I know that grantors play favorites to those who are proactive in investing in themselves. They'll say we don't know the utility work schedule. Everybody, and that's another excuse that has been given by this administration time and time again. We have to wait till utilities. We don't know what the utilities are doing. We're trying to coordinate with utilities. You don't. Utility infrastructure resides in the city's right of way, and those utility companies are required to put it back just how they found it or better. So we don't have to wait for the utility companies. We can move forward. This is an achievable plan. This is absolutely an achievable plan, guided by experts in construction, paving, and municipal finance. We have consulted with experts. We've been working on this plan for almost 3 months, and we have covered our bases. We have done our due diligence. And this is not just what citizens are asking for. It is what citizens are demanding. Now they have a choice, and they can make that choice on November 7th. They can choose to either borrow money to build 2 firehouses, or they can choose to go with this plan and pave 82 lane miles of road. As a voter, I think the choice is pretty clear. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions. Dave.
Jeff, you mentioned your bond issue and comparing that a bit with the firehouse bond issue. Would you, if you were mayor, would you also pursue that bond issue?
In terms of the fire stations?
Fire station.
No, what I would do and what I will do is take a look. No one has seen what research has been done into these new fire stations. No one has seen we don't know if any studies have been done. We don't know if they've looked at renovating those firehouses. We don't even know if the firehouses are in the right places according to the population decline we've had since those fire stations were built. There's a lot of unknowns about that. We've been hearing about it for 2.5 years. It was brought to the MRC last month in a request for some TIF funding to help pay for the bond. But the council have not yet seen it. So again, we've been waiting 3 years, and here we are getting pretty close to the election. Maybe we'll see it next month. But I would reevaluate. Look, I support public safety 100%, and I don't want the men and women of the Muncie Fire Departments to be in dangerous housing. I don't want them to be in dilapidated housing, but I think there's a way that we can do it that's much more affordable to give them what they deserve, which is good living quarters. Steph?
For the mayor's paving plan over the past couple of years, he cited a study that was done, I believe, before he came into office about the worst rated roads. What kind of research did you use to decide on your plans?
All these roads are according to traffic count. Look, obviously when you do a study that's going to rate the roads, the worst roads are going to be inside neighborhoods in a lot of those cases. But what it doesn't take into account is people avoiding these main roads by cutting through those neighborhoods, which is then deteriorating the condition of those neighborhood roads. So it was very simple. It really is just common sense that you want to focus on the roads that everyone uses, that everyone sees. It makes just total sense. Yep. Mr. Yenser.
Oh, yeah. I recall a couple of years ago, when we were going through the debate on the American Rescue Plan, $30 billion that the government got to spend on the people. Council approved it, which included about $7 million for infrastructure. The mayor gave to the sanitary district. Now, sanitary district's undertaken a program to pave and drain some of these neighborhoods, but can't we rein in money as you're proposing here with our existing money to do more than what, the government gave away to other government districts when they should help people with that rescue money?
Let me make sure I understand your question.
Well, the question is, the council has provided the mayor the means to do this.
Yeah.
Because you approve budgets every year, and like I say, the money from the rescue plan should have gone to infrastructure, but I don't think they've spent even half of that money.
Right.
Now. So there's money out there.
Yeah, well,
So
and
what can you do as the mayor to correct that and still have more money, not only for streets, but for other government needs?
yeah, well, I don't know what has been spent of that $7 million to the sanitary district. I know that it was in part because according to the American Rescue Plan, of course, you can spend, according to the Department of Treasury, you can spend money on sewer and water projects. So some of that money is, of course, going towards that for the stormwater sewer separation project. Some of that money, of course, is, when they do that work, they're tearing up roads. And as they do that, they're replacing those roads. Now, from what I've seen, and again, I'm not privy to, I don't have access to the sanitary district's, accounting and things like that when it comes to where that money was spent. But I would assume that, and the most responsible and best practice would be that instead of tearing up, the section of road that they need to put in whatever they need to put in, that they're not just paving that, they're paving the entire road. I've noticed that in a couple of cases, but that money has already been given to them. There's nothing I can do to rein that back when I'm mayor, but certainly when I am mayor, we can act much more responsibly. At the time, that money was much more restricted in what we could do with it than it was later. In fact, some of the paving in this plan that the mayor has done over the course of the past several years, some of that money did come from ARP. I had alerted the mayor last year of the change in the final ruling from the United States Department of Treasury that we could use up to $10 million for the provision of government services. Now, the provision of government services is anything the government provides. In this case, the government provides streets. So what I had suggested is that we put we had $1.9 million available last year in 2022. So we appropriated a good chunk of that towards additional road paving. So even some of these roads that you see here on the mayor's plan actually came from council giving him additional money to do more paving. But we have to do better. We have to be more focused on what our actual issues are. Every year this city, and I get so frustrated with it. Every year we spend millions of dollars trying to lure people into this community while we overlook the people who live here right now. We have to change that. We have to get our priorities right, and government needs to focus on what their basic responsibilities are. David.
Yes, I was going to ask you, the mayor actually bought paving equipment and had that become part of the street department. So, and what he said was that this is the first time that we've had actual paving done by the city of Muncie and its employees. What do you plan to do with that?
Well, that's yet to be determined, but then I can tell you, David, in our conversations, in my team's conversations with multiple large paving companies, they were aghast that the city had their own milling machine. In fact, multi-billion-dollar paving companies don't even own their own milling machine. The milling machine and the paver that the city has are designed for trails. Those are not for trails. The five foot wide walking trails, things like that. Those machines are designed for that. They're not designed for the roads. They're not designed for what they're using it for. Additionally, what I've come to learn is the less you use those machines, the more expensive they become in terms of maintenance. Those machines are engineered to be used often. And right now, we're not using them very often. Additionally, these street department employees, I can tell you, in fact, I heard today, from the operators union that the street department's counterparts, so our street department, which are AFS, CME, city employees, are making about 3 times less than their counterparts in the private sector. Union operators making about $66 an hour. Our guys are making about $20 an hour to do the same work. Now, they've been doing it for a year under their old contract, but as we learned last night, that same contract, the AFS CME contract, is now stalled. How long do we think that we're going to be able to keep city street employees doing skilled labor when they can go, with the experience that they get here, they can go and become a union operator and make $66 an hour? This is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. It looks great in an election year. Looks great in an election year. And for people who don't know and don't understand the paving business, may think it's a great idea. I did. I thought, I even mentioned, I said, hey, I'll give the guy credit. That's not a bad idea. But as I've learned more and I've talked to people who have been doing this for decades and decades, people who do this in the private sector every single day, their minds are blown that we have it. And then again, we haven't trained these men and women on how to use this equipment. This is not just a lawnmower. You don't just get on it and turn the key and hit forward and lower a blade. These are highly technical machines that take people years of experience to learn how to master. And we're asking our people to master it in such a short period of time with so little time on the machine. They've done several jobs, and the jobs are getting a little better. But again, not the street department employees' faults that they haven't been trained, but this is substandard work.
Why do you think the situation is as bad as it is? I mean, clearly, you gotta assume the mayor wants the streets to be paved.
Oh, sure.
Wants all of that really nice, and wants people to vote for him because they take care of the streets.
Sure.
What happened that he was not able to do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I'm not going to put it all on my opponent for the roads being in the condition that they're in. And this has been a problem of many mayors. This isn't just Dan Ridenour. This is many, many mayors. Because mayors, if I'm being quite honest, mayors are more concerned with spending money building buildings. They want something to point to. They want something tangible, David, that they can point to voters and say, look at what I did. Things that no one is asking for. Across the street from this building where we're at today is one example with the old jail. No one is asking for, high level condos. People are demanding that these roads get fixed. So again, it's a matter of priorities. It's where mayors are putting their priorities. And what I have found, with few exceptions, most mayors, their top priority is to get reelected. And we have to get out of that mindset. We have to get out of that mindset. I've told folks on their doorsteps, if I make decisions for this community that sets it up for 20 years from now, and I lose reelection, I'm okay with that. That's not what the job is about. The job is about serving these citizens and doing what they want us to do. Stephanie.
What about the sidewalks? There's a significant difference between repairing a sidewalk and putting in new sidewalks. Of the $5 million, have you allocated one versus the other?
We haven't, and to be perfectly honest, the city's inventory of sidewalks is so vast that we haven't done a proper inventory of the sidewalks. But I can tell you, just anecdotally, we were walking in Shedtown a couple of weeks ago, and, Shedtown, and then I'll compare it to Riverside Normal City in my district, in the Ball State area. These are two areas where the sidewalks are, you almost can't even see them. I mean, they're the tree roots. I don't know how anyone can walk down sidewalks either in Shedtown or in Riverside Normal City. In those areas, they need to be completely redone. And also those two areas. We know Riverside Normal City, because of the transient population, a lot of them Ball State students are walking in that neighborhood, right? Well, when we were in Shedtown, the thing that struck me the most was that you've got these torn up sidewalks, but there are kids everywhere. There are kids playing in the street. There's kids riding their bikes. There's kids walking to their friends' houses. It's a very tight-knit neighborhood over there. And these kids play in the streets. Okay, they're walking down the street to get where they're going. We need to identify, and that's what we plan to do, is to do a proper inventory and not just look at what sidewalks are bad, not just look at where sidewalks are needed, but where are the most pedestrians? Where are the most people who depend on the sidewalks to get where they're going? How many people depend on those sidewalks to get to a bus station or to get to work or to get wherever? We need to figure out where the best places to do these. We don't need to just point at, throw a dart at a map or look at the voter turnouts and precincts and look at who's voting for who and go in and do the sidewalks there because that's going to get me the most votes. We've got to get beyond that. We have to get beyond that. Mr. Yancer?
Yeah, just one more thing about the spending money. Does the council even know what the mayor's doing most of the time on anything?
I feel like that's a loaded question,
Well,
right?
that's the correct question.
Because I don't know, and I'll only speak for myself as council president. I don't know much of anything
Okay.
that this administration is doing. That was Pettigrew Acres. It's actually on the map. It's this neighborhood right here. It's off of Petty Road.
How did that wind up to be paved?
I don't know because we had heard it was on the paving list. That, as you can see on the map, it's a circle with a road in the middle. And I had gone ahead of time to take a picture of the road, and I have a picture of that road before they paved it and after they paved it. Now, I will say the middle road was in awful shape. I mean, it was not great. The outer ring was really not that bad. And I don't want to discount the feelings of those folks in that neighborhood, right? I mean, if you've got a pothole in your street that you live on, you got a pothole in the street that you live on. And it's unfortunate. But that road, and I'm happy to show you a picture of the picture that I took of the before. It really did, that outer ring did not really need it. So I don't know how it ended up on the paving list. Again, and Ms. Weekman asked me earlier about the rating system and that inventory that they had done. And we've been told over and over again by this administration that they've chosen the worst roads and are working their way from the worst roads to the best. There is absolutely no way this road was one of the worst roads. There was absolutely no way. I've been on some of these roads. I've walked some of these roads. There is no way Pettigrew Acres was one of those. So I don't know how it ended up there.
You know anybody important that lives on Pettigrew Acres?
I prefer not to say.
We're all
I would encourage you maybe go to, yeah, we're all important, David. I would encourage anybody to, if they're curious, to go to Beacon and go to Pettigrew Acres and look for themselves. See if you find anybody that's name's familiar.
If the bond, you get elected and the bond is passed, how long is 82 million miles going to take to pay? Is it a multi-year project?
We'll be able to complete this project in less than 3 years. Yep. And we will be ready to hit the ground running. After we're elected on November 7th, we will hit the ground running. And we will be ready to go with bids as soon as we take office. And this work will begin in 2024. Assuming the council approves it, absolutely. My guess is that as a current city council member, and some of you who have been following city council may remember last year when we were discussing the mayor's bond measure. The mayor brought a $3.5 million bond for some projects. I don't know that any of those projects have even started yet, but brought a bond measure to council last year. And in that debate, of course, I voted against that bond because I didn't believe that we should be borrowing money for wants. I think you borrow money for needs. and everything that the mayor was proposing were once. Well, I had told him at that time in a council meeting on public record that you bring me a bond for infrastructure and I'll vote in favor of it. That's a need. So my guess would be, and I'm only speaking, of course, for myself as a council member, if the mayor brought me this proposal, I would absolutely vote in favor of it because I know this is needed. This is a need for our community. Mr. Barber?
In the past, one of the excuses has been, we can't get a hold of a paving company to start paving for 10 to 20 weeks. Do you see that being a problem if you go to hire a paving company to start their jobs sooner than 10 to 12 weeks?
Nope, I can tell you that, in discussions with many paving companies, these guys, this is what these guys do. This is their livelihood. If there's business out there, they're gonna get out there and do it. These guys have all the equipment. They have all the people power. They have everything ready to go. And you, Mr. Barber, of all people, know that. You're a union operator and you're on jobs every single day and you get moved around. I mean, these companies they're in existence to make money. And if they can't handle work like this, then they're probably not gonna be in business very long. So, yep.
The mayor has spent a lot of money in local parks. And that has been a major priority for the administration. Where would that be in your administration? Would we see more of an emphasis then on paving the streets and less of an emphasis on worrying about the condition of the parks?
Sure. Well, I think you can do both. And I would pride myself as an administration to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? But my approach to the parks, I have disagreed with the approach that the current administration has had for a couple of reasons. Now, look, improvements in the park are important, right? Splash pads for kids, activities for kids, things like that. What this current mayor has done is expand our parks. He's added new parks. He's talking about adding, of course, the conversations on what would have been Till Pond over at Tillotson and 12th Street. Those conversations, we heard about it for a couple of years, and then those conversations have disappeared at this point. But to expand our park system when we've had a difficult enough time maintaining what we already have. I've long, I grew up here in Muncie. I'm a Muncie native. And I've long been frustrated the last 15 or 20 years, this notion of every mayor that we as a community, we have to grow. We have to continue to grow. But we have never stopped to preserve our community. And that's why we're in the shape that we're in now. That's why our roads are the way they are. That's why our sidewalks are the way they are, because we're not stopping to take care of what we have. We have to understand our limitations. And again, it's not exciting if you're just mowing the parks. It's not exciting if you're just maintaining what you have, right? That's not going to get anybody reelected. Just maintaining, right? But that's what we have to do. We have to be able to take care of what we have first. Once we take care of what we have, and once everything is in good condition of what we have, that's when we can start to look to develop. And look, I may sound, I'm the Democrat nominee, but I might sound like a Republican here for a second. I am of the mindset that if you take care of the basics, if you take care of what government is responsible for, the free market will take care of a lot of the economic development that we spend millions of dollars on. The free market will do that. Again, we have to get back to the basics. And with the parks, absolutely, Dave. The parks are vitally important to any community. It's a quality of life initiative, right? And we've got some beautiful parks. We've had some beautiful parks for a very long time. But drive around and look at the parks. And again, this comment is of no indictment to the Parks Department, the hardworking men and women, or even to the park superintendent. Mr. Malone, I think, does a wonderful job with the resources he has available. Drive around the parks. They can't keep up. They cannot keep up, just like with the street department. What he is doing is not sustainable long-term. It is not sustainable. The only way that we can maintain what this current administration is doing is by bringing more people on to the street department, paying them more money, bringing on more people to the parks department, paying them more money. It's the only way we can maintain what we're currently doing. Again, it looks great in an election year, but how long can we do this? Not for very long. Anyone else? Great. Well, hey, thank you all again very much for coming out today. I'm going to be here for a while, so if anybody has any individual questions, I'm happy to answer those. Thank you, everybody.